this is sort of well, first of all, Randy Slack from ESPN Wilmington is going to spend a couple of minutes with us here. And Randy's not only a top-notch broadcaster, but a friend, and he's at ESPN Wilmington at rslack37 on Twitter. And I was worried how everybody was doing down there, so I thought, hey, let's do a vibe check and see how everybody feels about Debby and whatever else is going on in Wilmington, and then we'll probably throw a football question at him because this is a sports show. So, Randy, everybody good down your way?
Brother, the sun's shining right now. It's not bad at all. Like, granted, it's a tricky situation because depending on where you're listening to this show, and when you're listening, like when I do my morning show on Modern Rock 98.7, I cover from the south end of Greenville all the way into Kinston to Charlotte. We cover a massive area of eastern North Carolina. So when I live in Sneads Ferry and we didn't really get a ton of rain and it was intermittent, for me it was like, that wasn't that bad. But then there are people more inland
right,
where they were getting hammered. So it's been tough, but I will tell you this, being here for 6 years now, if there's really no wind, it's tough for me to really get up for one of these things anymore. Like we got, I think, 40-mile-an-hour gusts at times.
Right.
Like we get that anyway. The thing with the rain, Adam, is to put this in football terms because this is a sports show, as you mentioned. The rain, it's like a run game. You have to commit to it. And what Debby kind of did, it would rain pretty hard at times, maybe on a 1st and 10 early in the first quarter. But then it would get away from the running game for like a quarter and a half. And by that point, my yard's kind of drained everything, and everything's fine, and then it would rain again. But by that time, I mean, Debby's down 3 scores. So what's this raining really doing for him? You got to commit to the rain if you're really going to cause a ton of damage.
I would imagine, though, that if people were not prepared, there would have been a lot of pre-snap penalties.
Yeah, there definitely were, and there's a lot of – we get so many new people here all the time, and you can tell when you're on Facebook and people are commenting things like, hey, is it safe to get to the island? Is the bridge closed? The bridge isn't closed, and I try not to – like, I take it more jovial with this stuff and try to not freak people out. There's a guy that works here, Stanley B's lived here his whole life.
Right.
If Stan is here and he's sweating – then I know it's going to be a big storm. And I knew last week when Stan took Friday and Monday off and he didn't come in till Tuesday, I knew, I was like, all right, this is probably going to be okay. And was it disastrous Wednesday morning coming into town? 100%. We were hammered, and when you're driving at 4 o'clock in the morning, when I'm doing morning radio, you're driving at 4 a.m., you're the only guy on the road, it's dark, and you're just like, surprise, an inch of water on the road. It's really scary and dangerous. But luckily, it hasn't been, as far as the storms I've been here through, it definitely wasn't Florence, and I'm totally on board and 100% okay with that.
All right. Let me ask you this then, as a Cincinnati Bengals fan. How do you feel about Joe Burrow, his new hair, a contract for your wide receiver, Jamar Chase, what happens to T. Higgins, and anything else that is happening in Bengals country?
Okay, well, we'll do this a lightning round style. First and foremost, I'm thrilled with Joe Burrow's haircut, the bleach blonde buzz cut. Yep. I rocked that when I was in high school because Eminem Slim Shady was a big deal. Also, on a side note with this, my wife, not a sports fan, a huge Joe Burrow fan, and now that he's got a buzz cut, she's totally turned off by him. So that's a big win. That's a win in the department for me. You know, it's a little weird when you go on Instagram and your wife has already liked your quarterback's Instagram posts. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to see that. I don't need to see that. As far as, I'm a little worried. I hadn't thought much about his Joe Burrow's injury and him coming back, but one of my guys that covers the Bengals, he was talking about how the throws are still a little wobbly and that his hand isn't 100%. That gets me a little concerned. If the guy can't grip a football very well, that's a pretty big problem for a quarterback. We did see Kurt Warner miraculously come back from a thumb injury when he was the Giants quarterback. Mm-hmm. He sucked, and all of a sudden his thumb was fine. So I think he can come back. I think they'll sign Jamar Chase because he and Joe are buddies. But honestly, like, running backs were the thing where it's like you don't want to pay a running back because you can get another guy that can do most of that production for a little less money. If you've got Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes and a good quarterback, do you really need a $30 million receiver? I don't think you do. I think we're drafting 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys in the first 2 rounds of the draft.
Mm-hmm.
You can find the next guy. There's nobody that great. I mean, Tyreek Hill got traded 2 years ago from the Chiefs, and where are the Chiefs and where are the Dolphins?
The Chiefs have won the last 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Yes, and we spent all last year saying the Chiefs didn't have good enough wide receivers, and guess what? They probably didn't, but it didn't matter because they've got Patrick Mahomes.
You do need receivers. We saw that with the Carolina Panthers. You can't just go, we don't need anybody to catch passes.
They missed a lot. They missed a lot. They were missing.
Brutal.
They were missing a lot more than just receivers. But yes, they were they probably were the worst in the entire NFL in that area. But you sound like I'm not accusing you of listening to this program, but I've talked about that. I don't know why teams throw $30 to $35 million at wide receivers, as great as some of these guys are, because every single year there's like, oh my gosh, this guy's the next great receiver. And there's like 8 of them in every draft. And then there's 8 more that you've never heard of that become great wide receivers. We just regenerate them all the time.
I started paying attention to it a few years ago. Somebody pointed out that Deshaun Jackson was the only receiver over the age of like 32 or 33 that was playing. And then it was like, dang, we really don't have a lot of 30-plus receivers. Why would I give a 26-year-old guy a 5-year deal worth $200 million if we've already seen the best he's going to give us?
We should. I do believe at one point we will start treating wide receivers almost identically to how we treat running backs. The only difference is the wide receiver position is a little bit less. For the good ones, the average careers are longer than the running backs. So I could see, if Justin Jefferson is that guy, then I'm good with paying him. But there's only a handful of those, and I don't understand why the Dolphins are paying 3 players who basically do the passing game, why they're paying them $140 million a year. I don't get it. That's fine.
The next coach will have to figure that out soon enough.
Randy Slack, ESPN Wilmington, where it's sunny, and he has completely poo-pooed Debbie. So that's fine.
I'm going to the grocery store today. I'm excited to see what my local grocery store is going to be like.
Oh man, if they're hopefully they're out of toilet paper, Randy. Hopefully.
We'll see.
All right, man. Take care. At rslack37 on Twitter.